Hey parents, welcome to Parenting Challenging Kids, and I'm happy to be here with you today. I have a bunch of questions from listeners, and I just want you to know that I love the questions. I love coaching parents and helping parents through these different challenges, and it's been so rewarding because even though I'm not meeting with you face to face, I've had so many parents tell me that they're trying these little things that I give you to try. Some of them are big things, some of them are big changes, but it's working, and I love that. Parents are also saying that Parenting Emotionally Distressed Kids, my book, that you can get on Amazon, is helping as they start to apply those principles. And then they're finding that if they're reading that book and then come into our playroom, they can get coaching on individual things like, how do I apply this? And so it really does work. It's been working for over 10 years with families that I've been working with. And so I'm just thrilled to be able to do this and to help and to hopefully add value, and that you can see the transformation in your family, because I really believe that it can always get better. And I want you to experience that too. And it's hard when you're just kind of doing it alone. You might not see the changes, but it's an incredible, even as I'm talking with people in the playroom, I get to see the changes that are happening right there, even though they might be in other places across the nation. So join us for the things that you can, and I'll leave some links in the below this video, and just check us out. And if you want to just go to parentingchallengingkids.com, you can do that and find out about the playroom and about our 12-week coaching program. And it's just been amazing. I love it. So the first questions that have come up have been all about back to school and different problems. And so I'm going to give you some tips, but I'm not going to expound on them too much, because on September 19th, I'm doing a free webinar for any parents, grandparents, people that help with other kids, whatever your role is. We're going to do a free webinar for back to school issues, everything from homework to IEPs, 504s, motivation in the morning, all of it. So there'll also be a link for that. Please sign up as soon as possible. It's getting full, and I want you to be able to participate. It's going to be live. There will be a recorded replay if you've registered. It'll only be available to those that have registered, and that registration is free. But you can also sign up some other people if you know other people that would want to be part of it, and you'll get the emails and all the links and everything. It's going to be September 19th at 12 o'clock. It's going to be about an hour and a half. And I'm hoping to also have some time to do some coaching about individual issues that come up, but we'll just have to see how it goes. I appreciate the questions. Here's some back to school tips that might just kind of get you started. And like I said, we're going to expound on these more on the 19th. So the first one is that you really want to keep an open mind, especially about the school. I want you to really come to understand that the school, you and the school are a team. And a lot of times we try to make it a team about the kid. And it may feel like, well, the school is only taking one side, but you as the parent, like, that's your team as well. So you need their support and they need yours. And so do all you can to build a bridge there. Number 2 is to really honor family time. I think that if you're spending hours and hours doing homework battles in the evening, you're really losing something that's important in family time. When you have been at work or away all day and your kids have been at school all day and then have after school activities or daycare or whatever, just really honor that time that you have for family time. We're going to talk more about that. Number 3 is be prepared for the IEP meetings or 504 meetings. And I can help you to know what that looks like and how to do that. You're going to want to ask for the things that you need, and I can help you with that as well. Morning routines. lots of people struggling with morning routines. You're going to want to keep the mornings as simple as possible. Basically, 1, 2, 3, and we're out the door. Some kids really get lost if they have too much time in the morning. So a lot of parents feel like, oh, well, they're just so late and we're always so rushed. So they start getting kids up earlier, but that might not be necessary. It might be better to kind of 1, 2, 3, and here we go. In our area, the schools are offering free lunch to all of the kids in the Boise area. So that's been making it even easier for parents, and the kids are highly motivated to get to school because it's probably more food that they wouldn't normally have at home. I'll just put it that way. You're going to want to simplify your mornings and lower the stress in them. And so come to that webinar to find out how to do that. Homework drama. I want you to avoid homework drama. It's just not worth it. Your kids are actually going to be okay if they don't spend hours doing homework at night. It's really, honestly, it's going to be okay. And I want to talk you down from that homework ledge on that. And then the sixth tip is just collaborate, right? Like you are going to come to the back to school webinar, you're going to collaborate with other parents, you're going to hear some other ideas, but work with other parents. I think when you have challenging kids, that's one of the hardest things. It's so isolating. And it can feel like you're the only one that's having these problems, but we know that the number of kids that are struggling at school and at home, mental health issues, behavior issues, has risen in the last few years. So you're not the only one, and you need that support. So that's where I would really encourage you to join the playroom, because you get that support from other parents. You get to hear that you're not the only one going through that. And as we talk through other people's difficulties, you're going to see like, oh, I can try that. Or you might hear something and come back the next week and be like, I tried what you told somebody else and it worked. And here's the part that didn't work. And so we can work on that and we can collaborate together. So please don't just get isolated and feel like you're the only one struggling, because that is just not the case. Remember September 19th, and I'll have that information below. All right, some of the other questions, and there was a lot about school, so I'm just saving all of that for later. So there's been some issues with kids in the car. What do you do when your kid is like screaming in the seat behind you, or fighting with siblings? Or I've even had parents ask about, what do I do when they're a little bit older and they're sitting in the front seat and they're trying to control what's on the radio, all of that. So let's talk about car issues. So I traveled a lot with my children, and so typically we had at least 5 kids in the car. A lot of times just me and the kids. Sometimes they're friends. And I'm a huge fan of pulling over when things are not working right, and stopping the car, not trying to drive through that, not trying to, swing back. None of that, right? Not trying to turn the radio up louder, not arguing, all of it, just let's pull over. And I found that even if kids don't want to get to where you're going and you had a huge problem getting them in the car, they really don't want to just sit in the car either. So I would sit and wait for kids to get buckled. And you really have to work on yourself on this one, I think, because there's a lot of waiting that requires you to have patience and to just be resigned that it's going to take as long as it takes. And what I found is that it takes a lot less time than you think it does. It feels like a long time, and it can feel like, oh, that took forever, but really check yourself, because when I've been talking to parents about this waiting, I'm finding out that while they were waiting, they were, trying to talk the kid into it. They were, moralizing, explaining, telling the kid like, I'm just waiting for you, and not being very patient. So you've got to really work on yourself, and just kind of this attitude of it's going to take however long it takes, and we're going to get there when we get there, but it's not safe to drive like this. And I like to equate a lot of things in safety and not putting it on the child to be safe. Like, you're not being safe I'm waiting for you to be safe. It's like, no, I'm in charge of creating safety for my family as the parent. And so encouraging, you to think about it in that way, like it's not safe for me to drive when this is happening. So I will wait. Sometimes in the waiting and pulling over, depending on what would happen, there was a couple of different ways that you can handle it. Okay. So, and I want you to know that I don't know your child. So you're going to have to use things that are going to help with your child. If you have a child that is going to bolt out of the car, then I don't recommend pulling over on a highway where that's going to happen. Some kids that are really not functioning very well can do that. So make sure that you have all those things in place. Security locks, child lock on the door, strapped into their car seats, whatever it is, if you're going to pull over. And in those cases too, I would recommend that you might need to get out of the car, take the keys with you. Don't lock your kids in there, and leave, but you're going to stay right by the door or right by that child. There's been times when parents have gone and just sat next to the child. I don't recommend that if they're being aggressive and violent, especially to you, but sometimes if they're being that way with each other. I remember one time we were driving. We used to live an hour outside of town, so we had a lot of driving, and I just pulled over and I got out and I just sat between two kids that were just fighting, and I didn't say anything, and they're like, what, like, we can go, let's go, all these different things. And finally, one of the other kids said, she's not going to go till you guys are quiet. So we just waited, and I just said, hey, we just need to get home, and I can't drive when people are fighting. I'd like to just listen to some music on the way home, but we need to be quiet. Sometimes one of the kids would instigate playing the quiet game, and so that really helped. But there's just you get a lot of people in a car, especially for a certain amount of time, and there's a lot of stuff that happens, and sometimes even in their excitement or their joy, it was just too much to drive. So pulling over, doing what's safe. There have been times when I've had other kids wait and taken a child out of the car and just been on the on the safe side of the road and just stood there and kind of just waited until they were ready, and maybe they needed to kick the dirt a little bit and be upset, So, but that pulling over and waiting is a really good tool to use in the car. About kids that are wanting to be in charge of the music, fighting about, what's on the radio, silence is great. And it also speaks volumes when we just, it's like people are fighting about it. We just turn it off and just be like, we're just not going to have anything right now. The other thing that you can do is just let your kids know, like, I'm driving and it's my car and I'm going to decide what music we're going to do today. Or we took turns. We called it month in the front. And so I rotated the kids through a car seat rotation, and the person that was in this front seat for a month sometimes got to have more say about what was going to be on the radio, or if we're going to listen to something. Sometimes we would play a game, and we would I had a huge song list on my phone, and we would pick songs that matched certain people, this is the so-and-so song or whatever, we would play games like that. I actually think that your car rides are just a really good time. Don't use them to lecture, especially if you just have one child with you. And I had to really, when it was my youngest son, I had to really be careful about that, because they are kind of confined. It is a good time sometimes to talk about stuff, but just know that when it stops being a discussion and it starts being more, you're just lecturing, that it might not be very pleasant. And I found in some studies that were done that boys especially hate that, and men, because they're kind of just trapped in the car. So that's a word for moms. But I have found also that with boys being side by side and being able to discuss things is a little bit better. So we would go for drives a lot of times, my son and I, and listen to music and sing crazy karaoke type craziness. Plus, sometimes we would get to talk a little bit. But when it would come into a place of like where I'm trying to get a response from him in a lecture, I had to learn to like end it and just be okay. Like, hey, let's just listen to some music, or okay, we're done talking about that, or, because you can just kind of tell that they're shutting down. So being sensitive to what's going on. I have recommended sometimes in the car that you have maybe some different activities if you have long car rides than you would normally have. We had our day stuff, and I also found that with a lot of kids, sometimes having more stuff in the car was more of a problem. I had a lot of families that tell me like it was fine having books, but then they started throwing the books at each other or fighting over the books. So not so great, right? Soft animals, stuffed animals might be okay. Hard things that can be thrown at each other or the driver, not so good, right? Don't be afraid to pull over and just say it's not safe. I can't drive. I had one parent that did that, and a police officer pulled up next to him. She said it was so perfect because the kids were really mad and they were yelling and stuff like that. And the officer came over and he said, "Is there a problem?" And she said, "Well, officer, my child is like yelling and at me and telling me how to drive and fighting with his siblings, and so I'm just pulling over and waiting till he gets calm, and I'm sure you don't want me to drive when he's acting like that." And the officer looked in, and talked directly to that child and said, "Yep, your mom can't drive when you're like that, so are you, I'll just wait here with her until you're ready to calm down," and it was perfect. She said it was like if she could have planned it, it couldn't have been more perfect. So, just try some different things, but just know that nothing is more important than getting there safely. And you are the one that gets to set the tone for safe. If you deem it's not safe, you're not necessarily waiting for them to see that they're not being safe. You don't have to convince them. You just it's your job to create that safety. And if you're getting in the car and having these situations where it's not safe, then you need to take responsibility for that and creating safety. So that's a long answer to stuff with the car, but there were several questions about riding in the car. I think people are, trying to get kids to school and to place doctor's appointments, things like that kids don't necessarily want to do, and it can be really challenging. And so driving issues. Another one is playing games. If you've been around the videos or the playroom or any of the things that I do, I encourage families to play games together. I have found that board games can be a little bit more tricky with kids that have challenging behaviors. Card games seem to be a little better. I don't know if it's having the cards in their hands. There's been a few games that have been kind of magical. There's other games that have a little bit more competition, and like Uno, where one person can kind of dump on another person, even though it's just the way it works. I found kids have a harder time with something like that. But Skip-Bo has been good because you kind of have your own things to manage. You're still competing, but you have your own stuff to manage. Sky Joe has been great. A card game called Garbage has been great. So playing those kind of games is really, really good. But the question that came through was, what if we're playing games, but this child is really rude, or they are, if they're losing, they can't handle it, or if they're winning, they really can't handle it any better. They're just kind of mean to everybody. And I've found in some families, like there is kind of this banter during games, and this like, haha, I'm winning kind of stuff. You might have to really watch that and work on that as a family. Like, hey, we're going to work on encouraging each other, and if we win, that's great. Like, it's okay to be happy. I've had other kids tell kids in the family, like, don't brag, or you're not allowed to, that's not, it's like they're mad because the other kid won, and then they're being mad because that other child's happy that they won. But it's like, we want to teach our kids to be happy for people. We also want to teach them it's not how does that make them feel? It's just teaching them like, it's okay. If someone wins, we can just say congratulations, even if we're disappointed that we lost. And I always like to tell kids before we start the game, hey, especially if I know they have problems with winning, losing, especially if there's a lot of rounds, there's going to be times during this game when you feel like you're losing, but it's not over till it's over. And even if you do lose, it's okay. We're going to have other games. There's going to be a winner. There's going to be a loser. That's how it goes. And so just building that kind of sense of like, that's how it goes. But then know that the same thing with the car. If we need to stop the game, if it's not working, or if sometimes we'll just stop and wait until somebody can kind of get their stuff together. And I like it if we can just sit at the table. It's like, somebody's like, go mom, it's your turn, and it's like, I'm just waiting till Sal can, get his, cards together, or, are you ready? I'll ask kids a lot if they start getting fidgety. Some kids, their attention span, they really have a hard time with a game that's lasting a little bit longer. And that can be even past the 10, 15 minute of their attention span. It's like, we're almost done with this game and I really would like to finish it. Are you going to be able to finish it? And it's usually fine if they're winning and not so great if they're losing. So we want to encourage them to be able to finish the game. Want them to be able to play games with their friends and not be a poor sport or not be a poor winner, but to be able to be congenial and play those games. So you're kind of building that, not a good time for a lecture, because we also want it to be fun and interactive. So just kind of pausing sometimes, but there are times when we just have to say, I think we're done. I don't think we're going to get any further. And you might have other kids that are really disappointed because they were going to win or whatever. And if they're older kids and they can finish the game and you need to take somebody aside, that's totally fine too. Why don't you three finish this game? I'm going to go take your brother and we're going to go sit over here. You can do that. I have found that if you have one child that doesn't want to play the game, but yet they want to sit at the table, that some kids that works, I've had some kids join in. So it's like, if you want to join in, then you'll take over my spot, or you'll be a little bit behind, but here's your pile. And I have had kids join in, even if they said they don't want to. But then I have some kids that will sit there and they're just terrible, right? Like they didn't want to play, but they want to tell everybody else what to do. And they're just a constant distraction. So if you have a child that's like that, then I would have them be doing something else, preferably like, if you're not going to play the game with us, then you can get started on doing the dishes, or, somewhere close by, but doing something else. And then when you're done with that, you can just sit over here and read. That sometimes works, but you have to kind of build to that place. And I'm guessing that if you're listening to this video and you haven't been around the teachings a lot, you might not be at that place to be able to do that. So you're going to really want to work with your child on being a part of it. A lot of times with older kids too, you just have to say, this is what we're doing. And so yes, you are going to play. And most of the time they do fine with it. So games are really important, I think, for family time and building kind of that family camaraderie. And your family will have some of their favorite games. I've been in some families where they love all kinds of games and they do really well. The kids do great. Learning new games is so good for their brains. And there's just little things like teaching them what they can say when they lose or when they win. And so, and then there's other kids that they just haven't had that much experience. So you're teaching social skills and a lot of things at that time. So those are some of the big questions that came up this week. There's always more, and so I'll address those next time. We're getting out of time today. Remember, September 19th is all about back to school struggles. If you have questions, there's a place on your registration where you can say what some of your struggles are, and I will do my best to address all of those. And again, sign up as soon as you can. And I look forward to talking to you more later. Thanks for listening today, and have a great week.